Good morning. Thank you for joining today's HIA-LI Manufacturing and International Trade Committee meeting. Thank you very much for your time and thank you for joining us today. Today, we'll talk about how to discover new international markets in terms of market research as well as basics of exporting. So we'll have actually experts in our panel today, so we'll talk about it. Before we get to the subject matter, let's just talk about our committee and HIA-LI events as next steps, if that's okay. So some of you as know, my name is Kevin Deveci. I am a co-chair of the Manufacturing and International Trade Committee. I facilitate events with my colleague Ron Loveland. So together we organize events to help manufacturers and businesses to learn about different subjects. Sometimes we talk about manufacturing, sometimes we talk about best manufacturing practices, and sometimes we talk about international trade, as you may know. So our events are educational, informative, and we meet second Wednesday of every month. So in that sense, our meetings are ongoing on monthly basis, and we facilitate to share information and recent trends with manufacturers as well as business owners. You can also visit HIA-LI's website to learn more about our committee. Just to refresh your mind, in previous months, we also talk about different subjects, especially in terms of international trade. We talk about, for example, how to do business with Vietnam, for instance. You may remember it was also a very informative meeting. We talk about how to do business with China, and we also had a panel of experts talk about the region and resources available as to how to do business with China, for example. We covered France last year as well in terms of doing business, export and import. We had also very interesting meeting and very informative meeting about how to do business with Brazil, for example. That was pretty good. And also especially in New York State, one of the popular subjects is cannabis industry. And we also talk about cannabis industry. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities in the marketplace? And what is coming up in New York State as well moving forward. We talk about also cyber security, which is very important nowadays. We hear many different events and hacks going on. So we also had an expert speaker from TechWorks Consulting, and we learn about how we can protect our business, how we can protect our know-how, data, and how we can actually operate accordingly. And finally, one of the important things that we do every December is getting ready for the new year, right? So we also talk about what is coming for 2022 and how we can get ready. So that was also a very informative meeting that we facilitated. Some of you already organized and joined our LinkedIn group. We have a very active LinkedIn group, so if you have a chance, please join our LinkedIn group so we can also be in touch via LinkedIn as well in terms of our Manufacturing and International Trade Committee. All right, great. So let's talk about HIA-LI, what is coming up. So one of the important things before I hand it over to Haley is the trade show. Trade show is coming. So we promote the trade show, we support the trade show. It is scheduled for May 26th, and it is gonna take place Suffolk Community College's Grand Campus. It's gonna be an exciting event as happens every single year. So definitely we invite you, exhibit if you can, get a booth, attend. You know, let's put the word out together and let's support the trade show. And it's a great opportunity, as you know, because of the COVID. We couldn't see each other for a very long time, so that's a great opportunity to get together, you know, network again and promote our businesses and learn from each other. So I think enough said. I'll hand it over to Haley and let's learn about what is coming up next from HIA-LI.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Hello, everyone. My name is Hallie. I am the event planner with the HIA. So we do have some exciting upcoming events. One of them being on April 29th, we have our Long Island Innovation Park update that is taking place at the IBEW. It's a really exciting event. Basically, we will just be discussing all of the amazing things that are happening within the park. We have some CEOs that own some businesses in the park that will be speaking, as well as some local legislators. And we're also expecting Steve Blown to come make some opening remarks. So that's going to be a really wonderful event if you are able to come, if you're interested in attending. We will also be selling some exhibit booths there. So if you're looking to set up a booth, if you currently have a business in the park, or if you are looking to do business in the park, it's definitely a really great event to attend. And then, of course, as Kevin mentioned, we do have our trade show coming up in May. We're very, very excited about that. We're back at Suffolk, so we are expecting a really, really great turnout. We do still have some booths available, so if you are interested in getting involved with that as well, please reach out to me. As most of you know, we are looking to have a really nice presence with the manufacturing committee this year. They will be having their own pavilion, as well as some seminars that Ron has been so wonderful to put together. So we're really excited to get some manufacturers really involved this year, also offering some job opportunities, having some students and job seekers come as well. So overall, it should just be a really, really nice trade show. We're happy to be back in person and back at a larger location. So really, if anybody has any questions about any events that are coming up or looking to get involved, I will put my email in the comment section, and feel free to reach out to me. And I think that's about it for updates on our end. Thank you so much. And Kevin, I will pass it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Appreciate it. Sounds good. So HIA-LI is on the move. Always new things are coming up. So it's very exciting. I also like to see if my colleague Ron has anything to share. Ron, are you with us?
Yeah, good morning. I just want to emphasize what Hallie was talking about. When's the last time we've had a manufacturing show on Long Island? It's like, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago. So this is a chance for manufacturers to come and make connections with local suppliers. One of the big things that we ran into during the pandemic was, hey, we got all this stuff from Asia, and how do we get these things? So we had to have, local manufacturers making masks and garbs and hazmat suits, ventilators, test kits, vaccines, you may name it. So this is a great chance for manufacturers to get together to make connections. And, the other big thing that I see from manufacturers is they can't get workers, right? So we're going to have, career seekers coming through. We've got working with Rosalie Drago over at Suffolk County DOL to bring in job seekers, as well as, the folks that are really doing it right are the ones that are reaching into the schools, letting students, parents, teachers know about the high-paying careers available in manufacturing. So this is going to be a great event. It's going to be manufacturing, automation. They're going to bring their automation partners because a lot of the kids, students get excited about robotics and automation. Again, we're going to have students talking about their connections with manufacturers as well as the teachers. So it's going to be a great event. Hope you guys can join us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Ron. I appreciate it. Thank you. So we are looking forward to this event and, of course, other events as well as HIA-LI. And we support it, and we like you to join us as much as you can. As you also know, we also started to have some on-site meetings at HIA-LI, which is very, very exciting. I'm also looking forward to organize our committee meetings as well moving forward, hopefully, in person. But I cannot wait. So that's exciting. Hopefully, it's going to be much better for business community and environment, and we'll work closer moving forward. Thank you very much, Hallie and Ron. Appreciate it. Okay, moving forward with our panel. As I mentioned today, we'll talk about how to discover new international markets. As business owners and as manufacturers, we are always looking for new markets. How can we search? How can we find out? How should we operate? So today we'll talk about how we can actually find new markets globally. So there are tools available, there are resources available. So that is why we put together this expert panel. Today we have with us Maricel Traspalacios from Long Island U.S. Export Assistance Center, U.S. Commercial Services. She is with us. And also we also have Loretta Bain from Empire State Development. We'll learn both from federal government and as well as New York State, what resources available, how we should operate as business owners, as manufacturers, as professionals. So we learn about the available tools, resources. Let's keep in mind that we have a Q&A session at the end, so we'll have a chance to interact with our panelists. So if you have any questions, you can type in the chat box. I'll be seeing those questions and I'll be happy to share with our panelists, and so that we can have a smooth presentation session together. Before further ado, I'd like to invite Maricel to our virtual stage. I know she's been preparing. We work very close with Maricel and her team. So we have a lot to learn from her, as always. So I'd like to hand it over to Maricel. Maricel, floor is yours. Thank you for joining, and thank you for your support, as always.
Of course. Thank you, Kevin. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation. If you give me just a second, I'll share my screen. Bear with me. I have sort of a lengthy PowerPoint to share with you, but hopefully it's a worth of information that everyone that's listening in will find valuable. Let me bring it to full screen here if I can.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so great. Yes, let's get started. I'm very excited, as I mentioned, to be here. Today we'll be talking about global market research and the basics of exporting. I'll go over quite a few tools, resources, reports, things to know in general to help American companies, specifically those on Long Island, succeed in finding international business opportunities. This is the agenda. We'll cover a bit of material. Bear in mind that I'll be sending this PowerPoint to Kevin so he can share it more broadly with everyone that's listening in. So don't feel the pressure to take notes or jot down those websites that I'll be mentioning. This PowerPoint will be sent your way. So from this, the agenda, as you can see, is a little packed. I'll spend more time on some slides than others, but again, you'll get them all. So just who we are. We are the U.S. Commercial Service. We're part of a federal agency, the Department of Commerce, and our main mission is to help American companies find export opportunities overseas so they can sell their goods and services. We cover both. I think the important thing from this slide is to understand that we're a federal agency and that we have resources throughout the United States and throughout the world. Exactly how do we assist? We do it through a pretty extensive network of trade specialists in the United States and commercial specialists located throughout the world through our U.S. embassies and consulates. We are, I believe, the only federal agency that have this system integrated of U.S. and overseas field organizations devoted exclusively for American businesses. So think, particularly those overseas, think of them as your commercial diplomats or your disposal to try to help you. In the United States, we are located in over 100 U.S. cities. Long Island is one of those places where we have an office. We have also another one in Harlem, New York City, Middleburg, Connecticut, Miami, you name it. So specifically for Long Island, we're located in Old Westbury. It's a two-person office. It's me and my colleague, Jamel Hicks. We cover different industries, so do know that we assist as many industries as you see on this screen, from aerospace and defense to healthcare, travel and tourism, which is considered an export, education, considered an export, pretty important for Long Island. If you are not from Long Island and you are in here today, just on this website down here, you can find your local office and befriend your local trade specialists. To work with us, many of the services we offer are for free. Some of them are fee-based. I can go over some of those fees as we move along the presentation. But it's really important as a federal agency that whatever it is that you offer has at least 51% US content. This is really important. We want to help those businesses that create value here in the United States and keep those jobs in here. For Long Island, we work exclusively with NASA and Suffolk headquartered companies. We assist in a broad range of areas: export counseling, market intelligence. Our sweet spot is really matchmaking. This is when we try to match the US company with a foreign buyer, a foreign partner, whatever it is that you do. And we do commercial diplomacy. So why exports matter? I think that probably most of us know that 95% of the world population is outside the United States, but also more importantly, 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside the United States. So there are many, let's say not wealthy, but people outside the United States with this purchasing power to buy American-made goods and services. Companies that export grow faster, and studies show that there are almost 9% less likely to go out of business during those business cycles when they get a little unstable here in the US. I will mention per experience that the advantages of made in the US brand are pretty strong. I have a list in here: innovative, creating cutting edge technology, very well known for high quality. American goods overseas are known for this and are very sought after because of that. Creative marketing materials, easy to reach and communicate with. Those after sales relationships and communication tends to be easier with American companies. But okay, the reality is that here in the United States, we don't have that many SMEs, small and medium size enterprises exporting. Less than 5% do, and almost 60% of those that are exporting, they export just to one market, namely probably Canada or Mexico, which is fine. They're foreign markets and worth exploring, but also there's so much out there. And our competitors are really putting in effort and money to assist their foreign companies. So in here, my office, my agency definitely has a lot of work to do. 12% of the US GDP comes from exports. Compare that to a country like Germany, where it's almost 50%. I realize that the US economy is so much bigger, so it's not quite a fair comparison, but definitely we can say that there's room for us to grow. Now, jumping a little bit into this whole idea of exporting, I have in here a couple of questions that are essential to ask yourself if you're a company and are really considering beginning to export or curious about export markets. These questions will help you put things into perspective and say, am I ready now? How can I, if not, how can I get ready? What can I do? But they can definitely make you think. For example, does your company have a product or service that has served the domestic market successfully? I was surprised when I started my job. So many companies would come to me and they wouldn't even have a product or service. They're like, oh, I want to go to England. I want to go to Costa Rica because their rainforest is so great. I want to do business there. It's like, that's very nice, but maybe not very business strategically wise, right? Does your company have sufficient production capacity? This is essential. I also had a company, they were in the beauty industry. They had all of these fancy creams, their marketing materials, and turns out that they didn't even have samples to send our embassy in Singapore, I think it was at the time. So production capacity does become a big thing when you are thinking exporting. You don't know that order for how much it can come in. I won't go into each of these questions, but they're food for thought, okay? If you are thinking about the whole thing of exporting. Do you have both US and foreign intellectual property protection? I'll go a little bit into this later in my presentation, but this is pretty important. Does your company have the appropriate knowledge in shipping its products, a knowledge of freight forwarders, things like that? So questions that I really like to pose to companies that are, especially those that are very new to the export process. And this sort of jumps right into this whole notion of having an export strategy plan. I know that it sounds, oh, another document that I would have to do, I don't have the time. But once again, this can really help a company put things into perspective, organize themselves, and just perform better, I believe, when it comes to international sales. Some questions in here. Is an export license needed? Which countries are targeted for sales development? Not all countries are, right? How will your product export sales price be determined? Some markets are very price sensitive, very price sensitive. I had a company, they had some industrial oils, I think, from Long Island, but they also had very fancy packaging, right? And they determined that it was part of their strategy to go into Southeast Asia to get rid of all of that fancy packaging and marketing to save money and lower the price, because in these markets that they were looking at, it was just very price sensitive and the whole marketing thing wouldn't make it. So these are things that you have to think about when you're definitely prioritizing your markets and understanding the places you want to go into. What personnel and company resources will be dedicated to exporting? Maybe you have Spanish speakers, maybe you have French speaking people in your company and you want to take advantage of that, or maybe you have someone that knows the regulations in the EU very well and you want to exploit, for lack of a better word, that in your company. So know who you have, right? That can help too. What will be the cost and time in time and money for each element? I will say this: exporting is an involved process, and it does take resources, personnel, time, money, attending those trade shows for sure. Shipping overseas, who's going to be in charge of what, right? Of delivering, of the shipping costs. So key questions to ask into your development plan. I'll show you an example, but my tips are keep it simple and short. Make it a flexible management tool. It's not a static document. It's something you have to come to fairly frequent when things change. Look how much things have changed in the last weeks with Ukraine and the Russian situation. So keep it as a flexible management tool that you keep coming back to. And here is an export plan sample. I really like this one. I apologize for the order. I think that it's not so easy to the eye, but I really like this example. It's a lip balm manufacturer, and they have an introduction. I was also very surprised to see that I visit many companies' websites trying to understand what is it that they offer, who are they, what's their competitive advantage. And I go to these websites and I find that the vision and mission is all about helping clients and value of customer care. And I'm like, but what is it that you do? What is it that you offer? And because I spend a lot of time on companies' websites, and I find it sometimes hard to locate that and to leave the website with an idea. Okay, these are lip balm. I know that lip balm can be sort of a very straightforward product, but it's really important that you just have a sentence or two saying, I am a manufacturer of this, or this is what I do in plain words. So people just right off the bat, they understand your goals. So in here for this company, they want to use e-commerce. They want to market outside the United States. Some of the goals are very general, right? But still, it's a goal and you have it there in your plan. Your financial resources. What budget are you going to allocate for these export goals of yours? Translation of marketing materials. That's a cost that you have to factor into your plan. A website. Sometimes you will really have to make slight cost-free modifications, or it will take modifications to your website, right? To really target those international customers. Particularly pay attention to your contact us form. There are many websites in the United States where it makes the field of the zip code a requirement. And in many countries overseas, there are no zip codes. So it makes it harder for them to reach you. Let's see, non-financial resources. Several staff members have traveled abroad. You want to take advantage of that. Maybe they know the market, the business culture better there. Staff will take a course on how to export. We have plenty of workshops, plenty of webinars on our website, trade.gov. And it's not only us. Empire State Development, who will be a speaker later on, they also do many webinars on how to target South Africa, Europe, Canada, you name it. So the resources and the educational material is out there, and probably 80% of the time for free, okay? Understand current trends and practices. I can definitely spend so much time on each of these bullet points, but I'll try to breeze in for the sake of time. Production capacity, I already touched base on this. Pretty important to consider that. targeting markets. And again, later in the presentation, I'll show you some tools and resources to help you develop each of these points that I'm talking about, particularly targeting markets and how to do that. The risk, there are definitely risks when you are, depending on the country that you're targeting or the market that you're targeting overseas, there might be risks, whether there are political upheavals or risk of non-payment by a buyer. So these are things that you definitely have to consider and try to mitigate them. Export-Import Bank has many solutions for companies to mitigate, especially financial risk, political risk. Credit policies. So in here, cash in advance, debit card, how are you going to accept those payments? Cash in advance might be more secure for you, but maybe for your buyer in a developing country, just to pick an example, might be not so feasible, and you might lose that customer because you didn't offer more flexible payment terms. Return policies, you have to think about this if you have a product, right? How will that work out? Shipping, freight forwarding, export licenses. This is pretty important, and this goes into the export compliance aspect of international business. I'll cover a little bit of that later. Perhaps health certificates you might need. Language laws. I like on this one, I like mentioning that we think of Canada just as a 51 state, but Canada is a different country and they have 2 languages, and it has to say, for example, made in the US, both in English and in French. So these are modifications you may have to make to your products, to your manuals, to your marketing materials to abide by Canadian law. Understanding your harmonized code. I'll mention that a little bit later. Intellectual property, export documents, pricing, how are you going to do that? And again, the website tactics. So this is an example of an export plan. And I really like, I didn't go in depth into each bullet point, but it can give you an idea. And you can see that it's not something that is so specific to be burdensome. And it's something that still puts things into perspective and helps you with that initial research. And here are some resources for how to develop an export plan even more. There is a sample outline in here, and this webinar on how to write it, hopefully it's still there. I found it very useful when I first started my job. All right, so market research, where to start? I usually recommend companies that the first thing, and this is only for physical products, this is only for physical goods, not services. One of the first places where you can start is knowing your harmonized system code. It's also called the HS code. The HS code is basically this code that identifies a product has a glass or has a motor engine or has a bicycle or has a TV, right? And as the name says, it's harmonized across the world. So up to the 6th digit, I believe that most countries, if not all, really recognize that product has whatever that digit is, right? So this number is very important because not only for market research reasons and collection of data and statistics, but it also determines the tariff treatment that this product will receive in that country that it's going into. It's very needed when you are filing customs paperwork. It will most likely, I can assure you, will ask you for your HS code, the HS code of your product. So it's a really important number to know. I know that many companies produce more than one item. There's some that just 1 or 2, but have a list of your HS codes. I've visited many companies and they're like, what is an HS code? That's freight forwarder stuff, responsibility. And it's true, the freight forwarder, your customs rep can help you with that, and they should definitely know. But you as a company owner or as the director of business development, you want to, I don't know, I feel that you want to know, at least have the list, right, handy, because this will be helpful. And I'll show you in a little bit. But now I wanted to mention that up to the 6th digit is harmonized internationally. After the 6th digit is not harmonized internationally. In the United States, after the 6th digit, we go all the way to the 10th digit. And what it does is that it adds more granularity, more specificity to the product. So instead of just an umbrella up to the 6th digit, you might have a beach umbrella, and that is specified with those additional digits, okay? So in the United States, we go all the way to the 10th digit. The first 6 digits of those 10 digits are the HS code. And the full 10 digits is what we call the Schedule B, all right? Now, you can find what your Schedule B for your specific products are by visiting the Census Department website. They have the Schedule B finder, and the link is hyperlinked in here on Schedule B number. And you can do a keyword search describing what product it is that you offer. And they also have a phone number and an email. You might want to get in touch with them, because I understand that some of the products can get extremely complicated, very complex. And you might need an engineer from your company in that call to really try to get to the right digit or to the right code. Okay, so remember, HS code, first 6 digits, 10 digits, Schedule B. The first 6 digits of your Schedule B are the HS code here in the United States. As I mentioned, the HS code is important because it helps classify physical goods for shipment going into a foreign country. You will need it for customs paperwork, what we call the automated export system, for merchandise that exceeds $2,500. It's very good to conduct market research, and you'll see it shortly. Comply with US laws where applicable, and determining import tariff, duties, taxes. So it's a pretty important code, all right? Now, going into this thing of tariffs and taxes, you might be asking yourself, where can I find information on how much what are the tariffs that may apply to a product going into, let's say, Colombia? We have this website here. Customs info database is also hyperlinked. It's found on our trade.gov website, but it's hyperlinked, as I mentioned. So if you're going there and you already know your HS code and the country you want to ship to, this is the link. You can input it in here. I would do a live demo, but it would take so much more time. So I did screenshots instead. You put in the country you want to chip into, the tariff number, the tariff text, and you will identify that product that you want to export. And then it will bring out this report. In this case, I use the example of Belize, Central American country, and I use the HS code that you see there on the top, which is the equivalent of corks. Let's say that you want to export corks to Belize. Right off the bat, you see that the most favored nation tariff treatment is 5%. All right, so there is a 5% tariff for corks going into Belize. And in addition, there is a 3% tax. And on top of that, there is a value-added tax of 12.5%. So you can see how the shipping can really add up, right? And this all translates into money and things that you will have to negotiate with your buyer when you're doing a foreign transaction or entering into some sort of agreement. Okay, so I believe that we don't have a free trade agreement with Belize. So an American company, this will be some of the costs that would have to factor in. And knowing this thing can also help you prioritize your markets, right? Let's say that, imagine if that tariff were 50%. That would like, maybe this is not a market that we should really look into. So it can help you, right? Prioritize, discard, include, exclude, whichever market. Now, going a little bit more specific into a country, let's say that you're getting many trade leads from Portugal, that you're just intrigued to learn a little bit more about what's going on there. We have what we call country commercial guides, and they're all for free on trade.gov. So if you go to trade.gov/the country of interest, Portugal, Italy, Morocco, you name it, you can land on this page. And then you click on country commercial guides. And in there's a wealth of knowledge. I have to say that I use these guides, not on a daily basis, but almost on a weekly basis, because I get companies that come to me and say, hey, what is the process? Hey, what's the export documentation needed to go into this country? And some of the information can be a little bit general, but some of it can be very specific and super helpful. I myself use it. So as you can see in here, it tells you the leading sectors for US exports in that specific market. So in the case of Portugal, we see that there are, what is it? Like 7 leading sectors, including agricultural products, aerospace, automotive, energy, ICT, healthcare, and education. So if you're in any of these sectors, it might be worth it, right? Exploring the data that's in there and why is it important for US companies in this specific market. We also have information on customs regulations and standards for Portugal, trade barriers, import tariffs, import requirements and documentation. I had a company from Long Island come to me and say, we have this soil remediation product and we got a buyer in Australia, but I need to learn about the documentation requirement to export this product. Of course, I had no idea. I went into the country commercial guide, and without even having to bother my colleague in Australia, the commercial specialist that we have in Canberra, I went into the guide and I went into documentation requirements and all of that. And right there, it said for chemicals, soil stuff, check out this department. I went in there and it said pretty clear, this is what's needed. So I sent them the website and they found it helpful. So as I mentioned, pretty handy information, especially if you're in that stage of just doing research in general. And then on selling US products and services, we have how e-commerce is doing in that specific country, distribution and sales channels, trade financing, protecting your intellectual property, et cetera, et cetera. So the country commercial guides is something that I really do recommend to check out. Now, I want to share this tool. It's from the Census Department. It's called the Global Market Finder. Again, you will need your HS code or your Schedule B, it's US data in this case. So you go to the Global Market Finder. The link is right there. And I really like this tool. I feel I should use it more, but I think that for companies it's great. So you choose a commodity code. In this case, I used that one, 8419200, a bunch of zeros, and it's exports of medical, surgical, or laboratory sterilizers. Okay, so you click in there and the data. If you pick Portugal, for example, because you've been getting all of these trade leads, you've been reading on Portugal, you want to learn more. And in here, what I like about it, among all other data that it can give you, is that it gives you the average unit price of this product going into Portugal. And you can see that it's almost $6,000 for these lab sterilizers. And that can help you put things again in perspective, saying, am I price competitive? Is it too high? Is it too low? Would this be a market that's right for me? I think that that piece of data is pretty crucial. So again, it's on a product and on a market basis. And of course, in addition to that, you have how many, the quantity of these sterilizers going into specific markets. In the case of Argentina, it was for whatever year I forgot. Let me move this. What year are we talking about? 2020. So in 2020, from the US, there were 18 of these lab sterilizers going into Argentina. And the total were almost $1 million. Okay, so again, it's all about putting things in perspective and comparing. And the Global Market Finder, I think it's a phenomenal tool. Now, give me a chance, sorry. Okay, apologies about that. Okay, so the Global Market Finder it's backwards looking, right? It's what happened, the trade data. And then going forward, more like in the future, we have this other tool called the market diversification tool. Is right on trade.gov. And this tool is different in the sense that it uses various different indicators to try to help you rank potential markets for your products. So it uses not only trade data such as average imports going into that country, but also the US import share of that average total. It uses the cost to import, the international logistics, whether or not there's a language match, meaning do they speak English, whether there is a free trade agreement, whether it's a landlocked country, the rule of law. So you can see the indicators right here, and you can assign different weights to these indicators. So let's say that you're a very new company to exporting. So maybe you really want to make sure that the rule of law ranks very high. You don't want to do the risky stuff of going into less, let's say, into newer markets that are developing. You don't want to run any of those risks. Forget a little bit about the political upheavals and whatnot. You might want to increase that weight to the rule of law. So you can definitely have control over this. Let's just say that you're really interested in the US import share for that market. You can assign all of these weights, they have to add to 1. All right, so you can assign 0.3, 0.2, 0.4 to each of these indicators. And then you will need your HS code again. So you put it in there. And in here, I use the example, I think, of lipstick, HS code 330410. And the United Kingdom came on top. And China came second, and Singapore came third. And the list is pretty extensive. You can download your exports results into Excel to further, manipulate or work with the data, and use it to your advantage. I will have to say that in this tool, you also have the option of researching by region. So let's say that you really want to focus on Latin America or on ASEAN or on Africa. You can just bring it down to that. Or you just want to research specific countries. So it's flexible in that sense. Okay, and as I mentioned, it's a little bit more forward-looking. It's not just based solely on past trade flows and data. So this is the market diversification tool. Here are some, I've already touched on a few of this, but here are some additional things to have in mind. I mentioned the country commercial guides of FTAs. I think that it's good as a business to just have some familiarity, at least with the countries that we have an FTA with. For example, do you know that we have an FTA with Oman, with Morocco, with Jordan, with Bahrain? It's not just Mexico and Canada, right? Through the USMCA, formerly NAFTA. There are quite a few, so don't leave a deal on the table just because you think, oh, one is so far away. Just know that there is an FTA and maybe something you want to explore a bit farther. We have industry teams in the US Commercial Service, and I really want to do a live demo here, because let's say that if you're not interested in specific markets or anything, you really want to focus on an industry or on a sector. You click on this link. Let's see, hopefully it will work out. And this will bring you to the diverse industry teams that we have. And they range from aerospace and defense to media and entertainment, so services as well, environmental technologies, food, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, financial services, design and construction. So you can see that there are quite a few, franchising, also an export. But let's give you the example of aerospace and defense. You click in here and you explore some of the teams are better than others at updating their websites. But it's a matter of just doing your own research, I guess. But for example, the aerospace and defense, they have these resource guides. You click in there and it brings up guides that are specific to aerospace and defense for Brazil. So you click under the Brazil and it will give you much data, market entry strategies, opportunities, trade events related to that. This one's a little old. Opportunities, airports. So this is just for you to get acquainted, right, with that specific market. And I wanted also to do the live demo to show you that it's not just physical products that we support, but also services, such as the few that I've mentioned, franchising, media and entertainment, and things like that. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation. I mentioned the Global Market Finder. We have top market reports. All of this is hyperlinked for your convenience, so feel free to check it out. Now, just a little bit basics of exporting, sales methods and channels. There are many different ways that you can, of course, export. You can do it indirectly or directly. You can just be passively filing orders for domestic buyers that then will re-export that product or export that product. Interestingly here, I want to highlight this, is that there may be some issues with export compliance with this. All right, US law places the burden on the OEM, on the original manufacturer of that product. Okay, so you may want to know where your product is going or the end end user of your product. You can do it through intermediaries such as a rep, a distributor, or you can do it directly, such as an e-commerce platform that you may have on your own website. There is no right or wrong way. It's not that passively is bad and actively exporting directly is good, not at all. It just really depends on a range of factors. For example, the size of your company, your appetite for risk, the resources you have available, the opportunity costs, and there is a list in there. But just know that there are different ways of doing it. Now, having in-country presence, you can do it through a sales rep. You can do it through an agent or a rep. The difference between these two is that agents can have power of attorney in the market, right? So this is a person that you may have in Malaysia that has with their signature the power to do, because you granted it to them, to make legal decisions based on your company in that country. You can do it through distributors, foreign retailers. For these, you will really need good marketing materials, or the direct sales to end users, such as through e-commerce platforms. When finding that partner overseas, ask all the questions that you need. The more questions you have, if they're good, the happier they will be, because they know that they will be separated from less qualified competitors. So don't be afraid to ask for references, for methods of introducing the product into that new sales territory. Ask those important, vital questions. And I wanted to mention this slide here because this is where we can come in, the U.S. Commercial Service. We can help you find those vetted partners overseas through a wide range of services that we have. We can make the in-person introductions. We can do background checks. So let's say that you found a partner, but you still want to do extra diligence. We can do that background check for you on that company. We can make virtual introductions. You can make use of the embassy space or the consulate or the ambassador's residence, whatever it is, either to launch a new product, to do a welcoming reception, to do a training for your in-country personnel. It's a very customized type of service for whatever it is that you need. We call it a single company promotion. So we can definitely assist with this process of finding that partner and make it into a new market. Our prices for this area are very, I think, reasonable. We are a federal agency, definitely not in the business of making money. For example, introductions to up to 5 potential partners are $950 for a small company. for a small American company. And that includes the vetting, it includes the introductions, and if you deem it appropriate in the market, embassy personnel will go with you to that meeting. Many companies, small, medium, and large, they like having US personal presence, US government presence at these meetings to, I don't know, add more credibility or whatnot. So we can definitely help in this endeavor. Now, let's talk a little bit about the regulatory environment. I realize that time is going by quickly, but I really want to put this in consideration for all companies of all sizes. When you are exporting, there are legal responsibilities, and it all comes in the name of export compliance. There are three main agencies that regulate this. You have to find the jurisdiction that your product or service will fall under. The Department of Commerce has the Bureau of Industry and Security. They regulate most dual use commercial items, dual use meaning that they can be used for commercial or military applications. The Department of State's DDTC department, they do mostly critical defense articles and services. And then OFAC from the Treasury Department, you're probably more familiar. They do the trade sanctions, the embargo countries, and things like that. So the first thing is really knowing your product, who has the jurisdiction over that product, particularly between BIS and DDTC. So just not to dwell too much on this, because this is a whole separate, not separate, but it's so much information that I always try to get on those webinars regarding export compliance, because there's so much to learn. But just ask key questions. Don't delegate it. I was surprised to find that companies would tell me, oh, my freight forwarder knows that. No. It's you, has the company, has the original manufacturer, the one that has this responsibility. Do not rely 100% on people outside your company or just on a freight forwarder, okay? What are you exporting? Where are you exporting? Who will receive the item, and what will the item be used for? These are critical questions that you have the responsibility of asking. What are you exporting? I'll give you an example. There was a famous case. I think it was a Boston-based company that was manufacturing some sort of laundry machine or whatnot, and they were selling it to South Africa. And South Africa and their buyer there was in exchange re-exporting to Iran. So the name already can raise some red flags. Turns out that Iran was using whatever was inside that laundry machine. There was some uranium components, and they were collecting that. So in here, what are you exporting? A laundry machine, but what will be the end use of that product? It wasn't really to do laundry, it was to get enriching uranium. And what will the item be used for? Who will receive the item? It was in South Africa. At the end, your end user was in Iran. And these are ways that you can easily break US export compliance laws. You should always screen who, even though, let's just say the example of Canada, such a friendly country, there might be people in our consolidated, in our entity list, restrictions list, that may be Canadian citizens and that you're forbidden from exporting or engaging to any business with, even though they're Canadian. So you have to screen these people. And we have this list, it's called the consolidated screening list. It consolidates quite a few websites, or sorry, lists, entity lists, and a few others from the government. It consolidates into one. And if you type the name or the address, you see the print screening there, it tells you if you can do business or not with that person. This is very timely now, given everything that's going with Russia and Ukraine. There are some resources. Make sure that your people, your staff is familiar with some of these export compliance laws. This booklet here in red or orange, it's very small. I really like it. It goes through the basics. Intellectual property, many companies think that because they have a patent or a copyright here in the United States that applies internationally. That is not the case. There's no such a thing as an international intellectual property protection. You have to go into that specific market and file for protection. And sometimes not even I understand that not even in the market, but on a within regions in that market, okay, you have to file for individual protection. So don't fall into that trap. Some companies that say, oh no, my product is too complicated to replicate, or my product is so simple, who will replicate that? Those are the ones that get busted. So be careful. And it not only happens to the small businesses. I think that Pinterest or something like that, years ago, they run into some issues in Europe because someone in Europe got their URL, their website, and they had to pay millions to get it back. So be on the lookout for that. We have this website called stopfakes.gov. There are quite a few resources there. Also, I want to mention we have what we call the IP attaché program. These are government lawyers and trade or commercial diplomats that specialize in that in both areas, and they can offer free counsel. They cannot offer legal advice, but they can definitely point you into the right direction or give you an overview of a market, or provide just information that might help you in general, okay? Now, I won't dwell too much in here, but once you have your product, you've determined the market, you say that, let's say you want to go to Portugal, preparing your product for shipping. There are some things, some modifications that you may have to make. Some modifications to the product itself, to the marketing materials, to the size, the packaging, the label, the warranty. So there are so many things, right, that you have to have in mind. These are some of the key questions in here. For example, product adaptation. The example here is Japanese may prefer different packaging. There was this gym manufacturer of gym equipment that had to modify for body sizes and things in the US versus Japan, because there's differences. Your branding, your labeling, your packaging. In some markets, the color white is associated with death, for example. So things that you have to have in mind, all right? So try to do that research prior, so you don't run into surprises. And this is just an example of visual. We're all familiar with the different outlets that are around the world for electrical equipment. So you might have to modify that based on laws of the specific market and adjust that. On export finance, we have this guide. It's pretty handy. It's both in English and Spanish, and it's not long at all. Just know that, of course, what's least secure for your buyer is the most secure for you. So you will always prefer cash in advance, but your buyer might be like, oh my God, it's too risky. I barely know you. And maybe offering some more flexible terms might put you at a better competitive advantage. Exporting per bank has great resources, and you might want to become more familiar with those. So for example, you might want to do a letter of credit or documentary collections. It's definitely a discussion to have with your buyer. And of course, it depends on the situation. If you're both new at it, maybe you want to find yourself more in a halfway point. If it's a trusted already partner, you might want to offer very flexible payment terms. And for export finance, there's an ecosystem as well to help you. There's exporting per bank, I've mentioned it. There's SBA, there is the ESD's Global New York program, which they will be presenting after in a little bit. I have in here some events that, considering the audience, might be of interest. We have a trade mission to Asia for advanced manufacturing. If you want to learn more about it, there will be an informational webinar in May. The trade mission is in October. If you're interested in Europe, we have what we call virtual chats. So be sure to check it out. It's hyperlinked, and befriend our commercial specialists from whatever country you may be interested. The future of electric vehicles and trends in Turkey. And I really want to bring your attention to Export Week. This is from May 2nd to the 6th. We have, if you're seeking information and export education, this is it. We have many sessions. Many sessions, market specific, logistics, you name it. And I'll particularly be leading one on how to manage your global trade costs through foreign trade zones. on May 4th. So please do check out this program. It's very good. It can be a good educational experience for your employees and for yourself as well. That's all I have. This is our small but solid team on Long Island. And I believe that we'll leave questions for the end. I'm not sure, but Kevin, back to you. Thank you.
Marisol, thank you very much. Very, very informative as always. Much appreciated. Let me take over the screen and then we can continue our session. So we learn a lot, as we always do, and that's very helpful for us to see what is coming in terms of activities and education events. Also the tools actually very helpful. That's just so exciting that I have to say. Much appreciated. So before we go to the Q&A session, we also have to talk about Empire State Development. Let's talk about also resources available for businesses in New York State. So let's hear from Loretta, and then after Loretta's sharing, then we'll talk about the questions that we have been receiving. I have a list. I'm trying to organize them, so we'll try to address them one by one as much as we can. Loretta, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sounds great.
Perfect. So I just wanted to, thank Marisol for that really rich presentation. And I would suggest that everybody, once they get the formal presentation emailed to them, that they just save it because there's so much content and websites in there and links that you can just rely on as you're making decisions going ahead. And I really wanted to thank Kevin and Ron and Haley so much for including Empire State Development in this presentation. Empire State Development is New York State's economic development agency, and we do other things besides assist with competitiveness and global assistance. So we overall, as an agency, focus on economic development so that if a company wants to grow in a region or attract to New York State from outside of the state or outside of the US, we can perhaps give them incentives to make the cost of doing business lower here in New York State. We could help them find partners, maybe research partners or just industry partners that would make supply chain and other attributes of being in a New York State company viable for them. So to get back to what we're focusing on, and I won't take up too much time because I saw that there were questions being asked based on Marisol's presentation. So I just want to tell you, the reason that I'm here is I've been with Empire State Development for quite a while, over 20 years. And I started out working in the regional office in Hauppauge to help with marketing and promotion of our programs and services. But a little while ago, I started working in the strategic business division of Empire State Development. So I focus on the life sciences area across the state. And we help build attraction opportunities and talk to companies that are here and see how it's easier for them to do business. And like I mentioned before, find partners. But the reason I'm part of this discussion today is to promote the global New York programs and services that we have. So the primary goal is to promote competitiveness and foster economic activity by assisting New York State small businesses, I should say small to medium businesses, to export their products and even their services globally. And one of the reasons why we got involved in this and just didn't leave it up to the companies is because there's a risk. Marisol talked about a lot of the risks, but there's also an opportunity to realize, new customers and realize opportunity costs. So some of the ways that we reach out to companies and we help assist companies is partnering. So we partner with the SUNY system, with their centers of excellence across the state, with SBA, with the small business development centers in the region. And we focus, my office in the Long Island region focuses obviously on Nassau and Suffolk counties. And we also work with the LIA because they act as a chamber of commerce for Nassau and Suffolk counties. But Empire State Development has a long history with working with HIA-LI all the way back to the trade shows when they were in it was in a small venue. And now we see at the Grand Campus of Suffolk County Community College in Brentwood, Empire State Development will be there on May 26th with their economic development partners to support not only HIA-LI, but manufacturers and other companies in the region. We realize there are a lot of service companies in the region, and there's not a lot that economic development can do for service companies, but there sometimes are resources for global awareness and global activity. So yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys today, and I won't take up too much of your time so that we could talk about the questions that might be coming in from the listeners. I just want to let you know that Empire State Development and the Global Division tracks a lot of the exporting that happens to, out of New York. So not only are we exporting precious stones and metal, but industrial machinery and computers and art and even electric machinery. So we have our top trading countries are Canada, Switzerland, Hong Kong, and the UK, and much more in Europe and across the world, Israel. So we have global foreign offices, which would be able to assist companies to enter a market. And those offices are in China, India, Israel, Europe, and the UK. And we do a lot of work with Canada, and our Mexico office has some compatibility with South America. So we could help companies that are seeking those opportunities. So a few of the ways that we help companies is some primary programs, and we bring money to the table, which is always good news. So we have an export marketing assistance program, which we call EMAS, so that people don't have to memorize everything we're saying. This program helps with exporting and interest in expanding into new markets. So you do market research or other resources that would help you identify the market that you wanted to look at. We have another state trade expansion program, which we call STEP, and it's for New York State headquartered companies that are more experienced already sort of exporting and engaging in exporting activities. And then finally, there's a grant program. We call it the New York Grant Fund Program. And it's for New York companies that are already exporting also and engaging in exporting activities. And we have another way to sort of utilize this grant for companies that we could go through a not-for-profit organization. So if the not-for-profit wanted to represent, a few different companies and be the sort of grantee to help companies go to trade shows or other export assistance and trade education opportunities, then we would be able to use the Global New York Grant Fund for that. And I just want to make you aware, you not have to become an expert on our programs. That's why I'm here. I'm in the Long Island office, and I'm here to kind of guide you through whatever you might be looking to do, what you might want to learn about. And, I'm just sort of an email away. So there's maybe one or two other things I want to tell you about. Lots of times we work with entities to put together trade shows or even trade missions. And one thing we do with another organization that Long Islanders in exporting might know, it's an aerospace membership organization called ADAPT, and they work with aerospace and defense companies, and they will put together trade shows. For example, in 2023, they're going to help some companies go to the Paris Air Show, and that's in June of 2023. Probably help people go to Hanover in May of 2023. And then there's some potential markets for trade missions in Europe and the Caribbean even now that are being planned for 2023. So we don't want you to miss out on opportunities. So what I was thinking as a new part of the Empire State Development Global New York team, that I should join that LinkedIn page that that HIA has. So I'm going to do that when we all hang up. And then, you know, I think that I covered enough stuff to give you a background to let you know how you can get in touch with me. And, you know, I partner now with Marisol and her team to, you know, make sure that the companies in the Long Island region get what they need and they get their questions answered. So saying that, I will lead it back to Kevin, and maybe we can do some question and answers.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you, Loretta. Much appreciated. So it's always good to learn about Global New York initiative and also available resources. Very helpful information. Thank you. Yes, so we've been receiving questions. So let's talk about the questions that we have been receiving. We have them, some of them in chat box available, some of them in Q&A. I've been also getting messages as well, so which is great, right? So we have many things to learn about and many questions, and we have the experts here. So let's ask and learn about it more. Well, first of all, I keep the contact information on the screen. So we have, of course, limited time today. But if you'd like to continue this conversation, to be in touch with Marisol, Loretta, please, you have their email addresses on the screen, and you can be in touch with them directly to continue this conversation. I also see in the chat box that there are some meeting requests as well, which is great. We definitely welcome it in this organization. So you can send an email directly to our panelists after this event, and the discussion can continue. That's going to be helpful. We have no doubt. Some of the questions, some of them, let's see. I have a list. So, for example, Marisol, one of the questions actually is for you to address, I believe. So we talk about the product exportation, right? How about non-physical services, technology and software, for example? Is there a different process in terms of the market research and other information that you mentioned?
Hi, thanks. Thanks for that question. It's a great question. I typed in the chat box there that, of course, there are going to be differences, right? With a physical good, you need to make the determination if you want to ship it by air, by sea, by ocean. You have to work with a freight forwarder. You need someone to physically transport the product, to insure it and whatnot. So there are differences. I would say, however, that when it comes to export compliance, it's probably the same. You have to be mindful, particularly with software and technology. That's a very delicate area. That goes so much at the core of U.S. competitiveness, and the government does look at that very closely. I'll give you an example. Sometimes, and this is part of export compliance, sometimes if you have a manufacturing plant and you're developing high software technology, whatnot, and you have a foreign visitor, let's say someone from Europe is touring your facility, and you show that person this information, you might be in violation of the EAR, the Export Administration regulations. So it can be that tricky and not that obvious. Foreign exchange students, I believe, conferences where things are chaired, it can get into an area that's very gray and that I myself don't quite understand. I think also for services, you have to be mindful of your intellectual property that much more, right? There are some laws that might apply as well, such as digital service taxes, privacy laws, how that software can be used to either spy on individuals or not. So there are differences, but I think that when it comes to compliance, intellectual property, it's pretty much, it applies to both physical and services. I would say, for example, for music, when we export music, it's all about copyrights, right? A big part of it. And music licensing and copyright becomes pretty important and that has such a strong IP component. Franchising as well. There's not a physical good, you're just yielding, right? The right for that partner of yours to use your logo, your recipes and whatnot for use in that specific country. So yeah, there are differences, but at the same time, I think that some of it stays pretty much at the core the same. I would say the country commercial guides, they offer some guidance on that specifically. How, for example, software in Belgium, if you just, I typed it and looked it up, it gives you some tips on exactly the opportunities there and how to conduct that business. Hope that answered the question. It can be a very broad one, so you would have to take it on a country product basis and take it from there.
Sounds good. Thank you, Marisol. Again, if you'd like to continue this discussion with Marisol, you have her email address on the screen, so you can be in touch with her and we can be more specific, just like Marisol mentioned, in terms of country, product, and so on. So you can have more specific answers. Loretta, maybe I can also address a question to you, if I may. In terms of software and services, is there any difference in terms of available resources from Empire State Development or Global New York Initiative, for example, that we need to address here?
Basically, it's the same kind of issues that you need to be a New York State company, you need to be in business for 1 year, and you need to have something that's exportable, a good or a service. And there are applications on our website that would help you. It's not really an application, it's a form that would help you direct you by leading questions that let you know, are you ready for export? And if you're not, we would refer you to other entities like Marisol's organization, or use somebody internally at Empire State Development or Small Business Development Center to help you meet the milestones to understand how to successfully export. And I think that companies find that tool very useful, because initially when you're thinking about something, like Marisol was making some examples where people wanted to export to a certain country because they thought it was beautiful, but we could help you identify markets that match your merchandise or service. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's see if there is any other question. Marisol, one of the questions that I see is actually, during the presentation, we learned about various tools that we can use. Do you also offer in-depth customized market research for US companies if needed? Your microphone is muted, Marisol. Okay.
Of course, impossible to do a presentation without that happening. Yes. The Department of Commerce, we have access to certain databases and trade data that if we talk to a company and they tell us specifically, for example, what their HS code is, what their product consists of, and we have a better understanding of what it is that they offer, we can do a little bit of more customized type of research, actually for free. Now, if you're looking at something much more in depth, we have something that applies more to rural companies, but of course, there can be some ways around it. And they can do very, very in-depth research for maybe $1,000, or depending on the package that you select. Is it 5 markets? Is it 2 markets and a region? Depending, right? They can do that for you. It's called RAISE, RAISE. And again, it's more for rural companies, the Midwest region. One of our offices there developed this program, but that's for very in-depth type of research, and there's a cost to that. Now, if you want something that perhaps a little bit just research, custom made, but not as sophisticated, perhaps, my office can definitely help. We would just need your assistance, right? Providing specific information that we may need, such as the HS code and things like that.
Thank you, Maricel. Let me see if there is another question. Okay, so one of the questions about certificates. So we did not design the committee meeting, this meeting for any certification actually, but we'll keep it in mind for future reference. I think that can be a good idea. Thank you. So let's see. All right. So before we end our meeting, Maricel, do you have any final remarks that you'd like to share with our attendees?
Let's see how many minutes we have. Do we have like 3 minutes?
Yes, we do.
Okay, maybe I should share my screen and also share with participants.
Absolutely.
Sure. Do you want to continue? Hold on.
No.
Okay, what I want to share in here is just this website. If you go to trade.gov, which is a website, and for US businesses here on the top, you click in there, Research Center, and you come here to trade data and analysis. There's some really interesting databases in here that they get updated quite periodically. So let's say that you're looking for more national, state level information exporting. You can come in here and either do US national trade, US state and metro trade, industry level data, global trade data. Here's the market diversification tool that I talked about. But for example, let's see on global trade data. I don't think this is what I wanted to show you, but give me a second. State trade data resources. If we go in here, for example, I was curious to see how the current conflict in Europe might affect New York trade-wise. So I came to this tool, a Trade Stats Express. Let's see, and in here you can do national, state, at the state level. I wanted the state. Give me a second. This is the downside of doing a live demo. My internet connection sometimes is slow. So in here, you select New York. And let's say this is not the HS code. It's another different classification system, the NICS. I'm not as familiar with that one. But let's say that you want the 4th digit, a little bit more specific. My computer is loading. Hopefully it won't take too much time. Okay, there you go. So I click in here on the 4th level. I want to leave it all merchandise because I want to have a better idea. So you can see here that for New York, Canada, Switzerland, Hong Kong, United Kingdom are some of the top trade partners. I believe that Loretta mentioned those. But let's say that I want to do by trade partner, exclusively in this case, either Russia or Ukraine, to see how it might affect New York State's trade. Give me a chance. Well, we select in here the partner. Let's do, I guess, Ukraine. Let's say what New York is exporting to Ukraine. It says used merchandise, motor vehicle parts, motor vehicles, communication equipment, and computer equipment. And you can see the volume in here is not relatively that big. In 2021, it was approximately $200 million that we exported to Ukraine of all the merchandise. So you can see how this could affect, right? Or how it could be of use to certain companies and even policymakers. So I wanted to show you this. You can do it by partner, by product, as I showed you. Exports, imports, you can select the start year. So just something to have in mind that this type of trade data is available. You just have to go to the Research Center Trade Data Analysis and explore it a little bit, play around with it. You can do it by region, by country, by industry. We have metro trade data. So metropolitan, New York metropolitan, I believe is the 3rd or the 2nd largest in the country. It usually alternates between Houston, LA, and New York. But it's a great tool if you're a data geek. And even if you're not, if it's part of your job and you just want to go well informed into a meeting, the ranking for the New York metro region is the second. The first one might be LA. I don't know, but yeah, something to know that it exists and it's available for free on this website. That's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marisol. Thank you for the demonstration. Let me take over this. Okay, there it is. All right, perfect. Yeah, thank you for the final information that you shared. And as I mentioned earlier, Marisol's email address is on the screen, so you can be in touch with her in case you have more specific questions. Loretta, would you like to share your final thoughts before we end our session?
Yes, I would. Thank you. So I said earlier that I don't need you to become an expert on our programs and services. You just tell us what you're looking for, and we'll see if we could help you with that. But for a guideline, I said before that you needed to be a New York State company located here, not necessarily registered here. And you need to have 500 or fewer employees, which is a lot of companies on Long Island. So I expect a lot of phone calls and emails. And the eligibility for our program, I should say the eligible activities for our programs, financial resources, you could do market customization, where maybe a lot of European companies will expect you to be able to send them a link, but other countries, I should say, still like hard copies. So if you need to translate your collateral material, that's one of the things we could help you with in the market customization. We do trade shows and trade missions. We provide funding for export education and product adaptation. Marisol was mentioning earlier that you need to maybe change the plug so that you could plug in electronic equipment. There are things that you don't think about, even though you're the expert in manufacturing a certain item or product. But when it comes to outreach to global countries, there's some adaptations you need to make. Also, we could help with market certifications. So in a nutshell, that's what Empire State Development hopes to help Long Island and New York State companies with as they venture into the wide world of global sales. So I really want to thank you guys for including Empire State Development in this. And when you go to a restaurant and the waitress says, well, I'm new, I just started this week. So I'm new, I just started in the global division last month. But on Monday and Tuesday of this week, we had a sort of a retreat, a meeting of all the global staff in New York City, and we shared ideas and we saw what was working well, and we thought of ways to promote better what we're doing and to reach our customers, our New York State companies, and see if we could help them further. So it's a growing entity, and we're willing to do what it takes to make it valuable for New Yorkers. So thank you for the opportunity to share our resources with this group.
Thank you, Loretta, and we wish you best of luck at your new post, and we are looking forward to working with you closely moving forward. Appreciate it. Marisa, also thank you so much for your insights as well. Thank you for the demonstrations and sharing your thoughts and available resources with us. I also thank our attendees for joining us. Thank you. Appreciate it as always. Always. Thank you. And I also like to thank our attendees for your time and for your interest. You see our contact information on the screen, our panelists, my colleague Ron Loveland, and mine as well. We are always welcome experts to our committee meetings. Our committee meetings are designed for education, to share information, knowledge, market intelligence. So if you have any expertise that you'd like to share with HIA-LI community, please send us an email. So we'll be happy to discuss and how we can also invite you to our coming committee meetings. Before we end it, let's just remember on May 26th, there is HIA-LI trade show. Ron just posted in the chat box. You can also see a link to get a detailed information on the trade show. There is a dedicated page on HIA-LI website. So you can exhibit, you can attend. Let's support HIA-LI's trade show. We are excited, as Haley mentioned earlier, for this trade show. It's going to be very happening. I'm going to be there. Ron will be there. And HIA-LI team will be there. Many business professionals, manufacturers, experts will be there. So we are looking forward to seeing you there. Let's be meeting there together on May 26th at Suffolk Community College Grand Campus. That's a great campus. It is, as it is grand. So we'll all enjoy it there, and looking forward to having you there. I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for your interest. And we are looking forward to having you at our next committee meeting next month. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.